name is Matt Stachoni. I'm a BIM specialist here at Microsol Resources, and today's webinar is all about what's new in Bluebeam Revu 2016. So what you may not, or what some people may not understand, is what is Bluebeam Revu in the first place. A lot of people have heard about it. It's a pretty big component for a lot of people's fundamental business, but what does it do? Well, basically what Bluebeam does is it's software that allows you to create, comment, collaborate, and organize PDFs. And that's what it does. It works with PDF files. And you may be asking yourself, well, why PDF? I mean, what's the big deal? I mean, obviously in the AEC industry, everybody is working with PDF at some point. It's a very convenient format to work with. It's an ISO standard, which means that the development of PDF is actually out of Adobe's hands, it's out of Bluebeam's hands, it's out of whoever's. It's developed by the ISO in terms of the feature list, and it's essentially, because it's an industry standard, then advances that are made to the core technology flow downhill and are available in Acrobat and Bluebeam and about 1,000 other PDF programs. What Bluebeam does is takes it to the next step and has tweaked it out to include a lot of the functionality that is needed in the AEC market, and it supports basically a complete digital collaboration process across the entire lifespan of a project. So from the earliest initial design reviews and design studies through construction documentation, into the construction industry with bidding and estimating and RFIs and submittals. Certainly PDF is the king format to deal with there, through procurement and construction management and administration, all the way through punch list, punch listing and checking things out, the project closeout, and then finally the handoff to the owner for operations and management, facilities management. So the PDF, the PDF documentation is great because it's, like I said, it's open, everybody can read it, it's very low impact, but it has a lot of punch behind it in terms of being able to provide markup capabilities and annotative needs for communicating things across across companies without requiring an investment in specialized high-end CAD software or whatever. So it's that nice low-end format that's great for communicating across companies. Now, the thing about this is that over the years, Bluebeam Revu has gained a huge amount of traction in the marketplace because it provides a tool set that is really head and shoulders above pretty much everything else. And for the top 20-30% of the design and design build firms out there, everyone's using it basically nowadays in some way, shape, or form. And so what Bluebeam does is they listen to their customers very intently. They find out what their needs are, not only in AEC but also in the legal industry and also in oil and natural gas industries as well. They play a huge part in those kinds of firms as well. And the market capitalization, if you will, that Bluebeam Revu enjoys right now is very good, and that allows them to basically expand the functionality of the software so much so that we all benefit from it. So from a purpose-built process for AEC, Bluebeam offers a couple of really nice things that are clearly at least very competitive with anything else out there. First of all, the interface is fairly intuitive. It's fairly easy to get going with it. It's fairly logically laid out. You have industry standard markup capabilities. You can bubble and tag and do all kinds of hyperlinking and things like that within your PDF very easily, much more easily than in most other competitors' products. You have what they call an exclusive tool chest, which is basically a storage locker for you to keep all these markup tools that you can create. And so you can instantly save, you can create a markup tool on your own, you can instantly save it to the tool chest and recall it at any time. The markups list is essentially a big spreadsheet of all of the markups that you put into your PDF, and those markups don't have to be just call-outs and notices that this is wrong or that's a problem or whatever, but they can also include real-world takeoffs as well. Things like itemized takeoffs of plumbing fixtures or electrical equipment, as well as measured takeoffs, things like areas and linear lengths and perimeters of of rooms and things like that. So because the drawings that you're working with are all to scale, Revu adds the ability to bring in the scale to the drawing. In fact, that you can have multiple scales in a single sheet in a PDF, and you can then perform takeoffs and do sketching and things like that within Bluebeam that are to scale and will be accurate in terms of quantity takeoff for things like carpetable area and things like that. The nice thing, I think, the one thing that Bluebeam offers above anything else is Bluebeam Studio. And Bluebeam Studio is a cloud-based storage locker, essentially, for your projects. And you can store as many PDFs in the cloud as you want to. It's free. It's included with every version of Bluebeam Revu. And Bluebeam Revu has certain, does have certain versions. I'm not going to get into the versions today, but if you go to bluebeam.com, you can find out what version of Bluebeam Revu would be for you. But essentially every version of Bluebeam Revu from the lowest end to the highest end contains a free pass, if you will, to Bluebeam Studio. The cool thing about Bluebeam Studio is it's unlimited in terms of the amount of storage that you can take care of, that you can command. So you can throw up entire projects to Bluebeam Studio, and it's no problem. It's completely free. It can store any file format. The interface to Bluebeam Studio is through Bluebeam Revu, so you can't edit, obviously, Revit files from inside of Bluebeam Revu, but you can store them there and you can use them as a transfer point to other people. It's secure in terms of you having a administrative control over who can gain access to the files in the studio project, and who can do things like print and download and things like that. So Bluebeam Studio is a great tool to have to enable that kind of collaboration that architects, engineers, and construction managers and owners need, especially when they're tossing PDFs all over the place. So today we're going to talk about the new features that are in 2016, and I know that a lot of people on the call are probably not that familiar with Bluebeam Revu in the first place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through sort of a soup to nuts kind of a thing, where we take a file out of Revit and we bring it into Bluebeam and we do some takeoff with it, and in that process I show you the new features that are on top of the existing functionality. So hopefully you get a pretty good taste for how Bluebeam works at its core. So one of the great things about 2016 is they've really enhanced the Revit add-in. That basically, it's a plugin for Revit that allows you to create PDFs. Obviously, you can plot from Revit using the normal print routine, but Bluebeam has an add-in specifically for printing that has a lot more functionality over top of what Revit does. So you can name the files, you can specify, what sheets and what views you want to print, and so on and so forth. It's very flexible. It's really nice. The other nice thing about the Revit add-in is it allows you to create 3D PDFs. And we'll look at that in a little bit later. The next thing that's new, one of the big ticket items that's new for 2016, is the ability to create legends, which are essentially tabular summaries of your markups, and you can put those into onto your sheets to basically give somebody a legend of the takeoff markups that you've put on there, or the punch listing markups, and so on and so forth. So it's a great way to communicate a lot of information in a very short, compact little package that's visible right on the PDF. Along with that, we have batch markup summary, which allows you to take all the markups that you've been working with and export them out to different formats. The other big thing, I think, in 2016 is the ability to use tags. Now, tags work with something called sets in Bluebeam, and we'll get into what that is later. But basically, it allows you to add new information, additional information to your sheets, so that you can export out information to things like a drawing log, which is another new feature in 2016. The drawing log functionality allows you to export out either a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet file that has a list of all the drawings in the PDF set, and it has hyperlinks to the PDFs as well. It's a great feature. And then there are also a bunch of general enhancements, things like exporting bookmarks, markup alignment options, new hyperlink appearance options, which is really great, and the ability to find mismatched pages in what they call the slip sheeting functionality. So let's start with the Revit add-in. A couple things that are new in 2016. If you're familiar with how Bluebeam's Revit add-in works, is that the new features in 2016 are that it has additional support for linked models. It also has support for Revit's 3D section box now, so we can export out 3D PDFs of sections just like we would see inside of Revit. The great thing about 2016's add-in enhancement is the ability for Bluebeam to automatically add spaces to all the rooms that you have in your model. So one of the things you'll probably want to do is have takeoffs of areas of all the rooms that you have. That gives you the floor area. That gives you a great starting point for doing takeoffs for carpet and tile and concrete and so on and so forth. So having the ability to create these spaces in Bluebeam automatically from the rooms is a really great thing. And along with that, it automatically can export rooms to area measurements. So it already puts the area measurements in. So that's also another really fantastic things, because the area measurements now are tied to the spaces that contain them, and now you can report, for this room you need this much carpet and so on and so forth. So let me go into Revit and start us off there. Okay, so what I have here is the standard architectural advanced sample project that we all know and love, been around since Revit was first born, I guess. So let's look at just taking the sheets out from Revit. So what I have here in my sheets, I have 7 sheets here, very simple, very easy to work with. I have a ground floor plan, the second floor plan, the third floor plan, the roof plan, the elevations, 2 pages of elevations, and sections and details. Okay, very simple set, but it's enough to at least show everybody what how this stuff will work in Bluebeam. I also have a 3D stair section here, basically a 3D section box through the model, and I'll export this out as a 3D PDF, and we can see how this will work with us. One of the new features about the 3DF export, or the 3D PDF export, I should say, is that it does support the colors that you see here in the materials. So if I go to, say, more of a, let me try a realistic mode here, we actually see more of the materials expressed in the 3D section box here. These will come through in the 3D PDF that we get in Bluebeam. So let's see what happens with that. Let me go back to our sheets now. Let me go back to here, and I'm going to go ahead and just walk you through some of the ways of getting a PDF out of Revit. Now, we could do this 2 ways. We can either export a multi-sheet PDF, or we could export each of these sheets as individual PDFs. And I'm going to do it actually both ways. I'm going to go up here to this change settings box right here. I'm in my add-ins tab, and Bluebeam has its own add-ins tab right here. And depending on how many add-ins you have, this might be here, it might be over here somewhere, or whatever. But basically, this is what I've got going on my system. So if I go to this and go to change settings, you see we have a nice little tabbed interface here for setting up how we want our end result to be. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to export out a full multi-sheet PDF. And let's see, I'll do prompt for file name. Let me make sure I have everything set here. Folder options, yeah, I'll go for that. Okay, so under transfer data, here we have a couple of checkboxes. We can export out the file properties and use the sheet name as a page label. I will not do that for right now, I don't think. And I have export rooms to spaces, and I have export rooms to area measurements. These are the 2 new features in 2016 in terms of exporting out our sheets from here. What I want to plot, let's see, I want to plot all my sheets, but what I could do is I could go to my selected views and sheets here and go to select. And then here I have a list of all of my sheets and all of my views. Now down here you see where I have all the different kinds of views that we have, which allows you to pick and choose exactly what you want to see. So I could say maybe check none and just show me my sheets here. I'll hit check all or save all. And what I'll do is I'll save this as my full sheet set. Now obviously this is a tiny little set. So when you are working with 300 sheet sets of drawings and you need some way to manage how you're exporting sheets out, you're going to need at least maybe several of these kinds of either partial sheet sets or full sheet sets for whatever it is you're producing. So being able to do this and have a lot of granularity in terms of how to easily find the views that you want, I think is a really nice feature here. It's very well put together. Let's go ahead and hit OK on that. And I think everything is fine here. Let's go to page setup. Page setup is, I'm going to use native Revit. That's fine. It's already set up for a 30 by 42 sheet. There's nothing big there. I can set password security if I wanted to. I could automatically add bookmarks. And let's see, let's enable bookmarks here, and let's see, create bookmarks by, I'm not really sure why it says drawing. I mean, this is Revit. We don't do drawings. So let me just go ahead and keep these here, see what happens. I can also add a stamp to my files here, and here I've just added this one. Let me go to add, and Bluebeam comes with a whole library of stamps, and they keep Bluebeam stores them in this folder right here. And so what I'm going to do is I can find stamps that I'm looking for here, and if I want to, I could actually add custom stamps. Like I have one here that's for me, my own personal signature here. So if I wanted to, I could add my own signature to the sheets. I'm going to go ahead down here. I'm going to say let's use preliminary. That's fine. And I could set some offsets here. This is going to go in the bottom left-hand corner of the sheet, and I'm going to say that this is going to go in all views. So I want to make sure that this is set up right here. That's going to be fine. I won't worry about file attachments or signatures or anything like this. I could add a digital signature here so that it would keep it from being modified. Okay, so let's go ahead with this. Let's go ahead and say OK here. So we've made these settings here, and then I can go ahead and say create PDF right here. And this will probably take a few seconds anyway. Yep. Okay, it's going to ask me. Okay, this is where it's going to ask me how I want where I want this to go, and I'm going to put it in this folder here. And what's nice about this is I have some abilities in here and how these are going to be named. So I'm going to use the view and the sheet name. Basically, I'm going to remove the sheet prefix. Otherwise, it would put sheet-A1. I want to remove that. If I wanted just the sheet number only, I could do this, and it would just give me A1 through A7. But I want the sheet number and the sheet name. If I wanted to, I could append a file name to the back of it, or I could put a prefix in front of it, say 12345.0 for the project number, and then a space. And so the file name is actually going to be the project number, the sheet number, and the sheet name, which is fine. Let's go ahead and start this off, and it's going to go through the process of creating the sheets. Bam, and there's, let's see if I get the file. You see them being created here in the folder that I have for this. So this first go around is going to create just seven different sheets. I'm going to go back into it, and then I'm going to create a multi-sheet PDF as well. And the elevations take a little while. I have shadows turned on in the elevations, which is probably why the plotting is a little slow. You should put music on at this point, I guess. Okay, that was good. All right, so that's done. Let's go back into this, and I've got all of my sheets are created here. Let me go back into this, change some settings around so that we do, instead of one file per sheet, we'll do all the sheets here. And then we'll say show results in viewer. So what will happen is it'll pop right into Bluebeam, which will be fine. Actually, no, I don't want to do that because I want to go back in and create a 3D PDF at the same time. So let me go ahead and uncheck that for right now. I think everything else is going to be fine. And let's go ahead and hit OK again and let that work. Right? No. Creep. Okay, so while this is working, and I'll just create this here, and I'll call this start. While this is working, I'm going to pop over it into Bluebeam and give you an idea of how it works in case you're you've never seen it before. When you first get into Bluebeam, it is a little strange because it looks pretty much kind of like this, and you're like, okay, well, what's going on here? The way it's put together is that we have a sort of a pseudo Revit interface up here, where we have our file options here are pretty much static. So we have new, open, so on and so forth. You can create new PDFs right in Bluebeam. You don't have to have it, it doesn't have to be created beforehand. We have an edit tab here, and what happens is when you click on these headings here, the tools in the right-hand side change. Now these are all grayed out, obviously, because I don't have any PDFs open right now. Okay, but I also have on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side and on the bottom, I have these panels that pop out, these little blue switches right here. So right now, this is basically my files access area here. I have file access, bookmarks, thumbnails, my tool chest for adding markups, and my sets. These buttons here are completely configurable. On the right-hand side, I have properties and access to Bluebeam Studio and measurement tools and things like this. I have some toolbars floating around space here, and I have down below, I have my markups list, which is that spreadsheet kind of thing I was telling you about that shows all of the information about the markups that we put into the view. Now obviously there's a lot of stuff going on here, and the ability to configure your user interface I think is one of the great things about Bluebeam. And what you can do is set up profiles that give you the tools that you need kind of at a glance. So if I can go to advanced here, you see certain things change. Now I have a whole pile of toolbars up here and tools that I want to use. If I go into construction, I have certain tools that are enabled versus some that aren't. By default, my takeoff tools, as soon as I hit the takeoff versions here, I get specific tools for different kinds of takeoff. You can see I have some materials already sort of set up here for these markups. So it's a very purpose-built tool, right? Everything's pretty much built the way it's, the way you would think. So it works out pretty well from that standpoint. And I see that my file has been plotted out of Revit. That's good. Now let's go to our 3D view here, and let's look at the 3D settings that we have. And I can come up here to create 3D PDF, and I'm going to go down to 3D PDF settings. And I can, with the 3D PDF that you get, basically, which is this view right here, and it's going to use the section box. That's the new feature in 2016. It'll also export linked models as well. So if I have structural and MEP in this thing, if I export this out, the structure and MEP portions are going to go along with it. I can tell it how I want the default display to look. So the background right now is black. Let me set that to white. I have a lighting scheme I can use. I have different lighting schemes within the 3D PDF that I can use, but these are the defaults. And then I can also add separate additional views to the 3D PDF in addition to this one. So let me add a perspective, left, front, and top, and an isometric as well. Let's go ahead and check that. And let's see, page size, let me do, say, 11 by 17, see what happens with that. And I'll go ahead and hit OK here. And let this roll. And let's go ahead and hit, oh yeah, we have to hit Create 3D PDF. And I'll go ahead and put it right here. I'll call this 3D, let's call it 3D for that. Oops, let's put it in the right folder. And I'll put it right here. There we go. You can see it just wails on this. And there we go. All right. So here it is open in, let's see if I can find it. There we go. Oops, didn't mean to do that, sorry. So I have basically my 3D PDF. This is a PDF now. Now what I have is if I just sort of move my mouse, I'm sort of tumbling around this thing. And I'm kind of like a drunk pilot here. So let me go ahead and set this to spin. And now I'm basically in a sort of turntable mode. I can zoom in here, I can pan around just like I normally could, but you see that the fidelity of the 3D PDF in terms of materiality is very close to what we had in Revit, and it is very much going to give you the information, the same information to somebody who doesn't have Revit that somebody that did have Revit did. So now what's nice about this is that as I select on things, you see how they turn purple here. Well, the information is embedded in these objects. So if I go into my properties here, you'll see that the floor that I'm selecting here is this carpet. And it actually gives you the Revit ID right there as well. This is my concrete floor, and there's my topography and my curtain panels and my interior walls and so on and so forth. So essentially I have all that information from the from the Revit file has come through, similar to if you ever use Navisworks and you export out to Navisworks and you get all the information there as well. But this is completely accessible because everybody has some sort of 3D reader. So, and I can go up here and I can change things like the perspective. So this is perspective, and I can go back to orthogonal. I have different views that I've added to this, so I can go to say this front view. Oops, let me go back to that again. Go to this front view and then change it back to orthogonal. So there's my ortho mode. And then I can obviously rotate back around and add this back into perspective again. I can also change how I want this thing to look. So right now I have different graphic styles here: solid wireframe, illustration, which is kind of nice, gives you a nice black and white view that you might want to use for to make it look a little bit more sketchy and so on. Different lighting options. Some are pretty good, some maybe are not so good. I can change obviously the color of the background. And I can show actually a cross section here if I wanted to. So I can show this section box. There's a section box that cut the initial view. I can hide that, but I can also show another cross section. And this cross section can be selected and moved up and down as well. And let me get us back to a solid view here. So you have quite a bit of flexibility with this. If you're used to Navisworks, this kind of stuff is pretty much kind of taken for granted now. But if you've never played with 3D stuff outside of Revit, it's kind of neat how a lot of these things are coming down to the street level, so to speak. All right, let's go ahead and turn that off. All right. So that's basically 3D PDFs, and that, again, this is something that can be brought into another PDF grouped with another set of 2D PDFs and so on and so forth. So for construction detailing, I think it's a great thing, especially if you're in the process of construction coordination and you really want the construction manager to understand where ducts are hitting the ceilings and things like that, and steel and everything else like that. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a 3D model they can spin around like this is worth 1,000,000. So I think that's really kind of cool. All right, so let's go ahead and save this, and let's open up the sample project that we created before, the multi-sheet PDF. And you can see here that already the rooms that were created already have our spaces in them, as well as the area measurements. These things in red are the area measurements. And you can see here where the area is actually reported inside of these areas. Now, the problem is that the original file was done in metric, so everything's in square millimeters, which is kind of a not the best way, I assume, of specifying area. It's kind of difficult to give somebody measurements in, hundreds of millions of feet, square millimeters. So let me go over to here. I need to come over to my measuring tools over here, and I'm going to say that this is going to be used in independent units, and this control right here, this independent units, controls just this particular sheet, so I have to change this to square feet. As soon as I do that, then you're going to see that these now change down to square feet right here. But this is the first page. If I go back to the second page, I'm still in, Apollo 11 units here. So let me change these back to square feet, and let me go to page 3, square feet. And I'm not going to worry about the other views simply because the only ones I'm worried about are the ones with the areas on them. So I have my three sheets here. Now down here at the bottom left-hand side, you can see where it's put the preliminary stamp in automatically. It's on all the sheets. And if you wanted to, you could obviously make that a corporate watermark, or something like not for construction, or don't build this, or whatever. So this is pretty nice. Now down here at the bottom is where all of our markups happen. Now we have here a whole list of markups, and Revu is grouping these markups into area measurements and then also the preliminary stamps that you see here. So these are also markups as well. So they're showing up in this list here. In the area measurements, we have a bunch of different columns here. Now each of these measurements has properties associated with it. So if I sort of zoom in here and click on one of these and look at my properties over here on the right hand side, you'll see that I have all of this information here. So I have things like the perimeter, I have the area, I have the comments, which is essentially the perimeter or the area with the square foot after it. So that could be used in reporting as well. I have the space that it belongs to over here. That's nice. Excuse me. What I don't have is I don't have what floor this belongs to. Now I have the space, obviously, and I can infer what floor it's on by the space, but I should really have a column here for the floor that it's on. So I'm going to go over to my column, my Manage Columns button right here, and you can see where I have my column display order listed right here. And I can go ahead and maybe uncheck certain things, like I don't need the author. That's kind of nonsensical. I have all of these other ones down here: comment, length, area. I don't need length. I don't need wall area. I don't need volume or counts. Let's see, let's get rid of the label as well. I don't really need the layer. There's my space. And so if I go ahead and do that, that's going to collapse this down to just the essentials. But what I do want is I want a floor parameter or a floor field right here that I want to work with. So let me go back into Manage Columns and go to Custom Columns here. Let me go to Add, and let me type in floor for my new field, and I can give it a data type of text, which is fine. Now, one of the things I might want to do as well is, that's great that I have a floor that I can specify, so I can group these things into different the different floors. That make that self-evident. What I might also want to do is actually be able to do some preliminary takeoff of things like carpet or tile or things like that. So if I want to do an initial takeoff, what I probably want to do is add a material parameter. I'll just call this floor material, and this will be text. And by default, I'm going to say that this is like CPT-1, which is a typical designation you might give for carpet. So that's like sort of our main carpet, which is going to cover maybe 60% of the floor area. So let's do that. Let's also add in a cost per square foot, and this is going to be a number. It's going to be in a currency format, and I think the default will set this to be 16 bucks a square foot. I have no idea whether that's a righteous number or not, but let's go play with it for now. And then I also am going to need a total for what this particular room might cost to carpet. So let's go ahead and add another one, and I'm going to say flooring cost right here, and this is going to be, again, this is going to be, instead of a number, this is actually going to be a formula, because what I have to do here is I have to multiply the area, and as soon as I start typing something in, the list of variables that comes down is going to be here. So I'm going to say area, and I'm going to multiply that, so I'm going to hit the times, the little star symbol right there, and I'm going to say cost per square foot right there. So it's going to take my area times the cost per square foot, and that's going to give me the total amount of flooring. So if I go ahead and hit that, and go ahead and hit OK, now what you see here is that automatically for my vestibule right here, which is going to get carpet, which is probably not going to get carpet, but let's roll with it for right now. It's $16 a square foot. It's going to cost $7,000 right there. And if I want to, I can change this. So I can change this to, say, CT-2, say ceramic tile. I might want to do that here as well. So I can just sort of double click in there. And maybe that ceramic tile is not $16 a square foot. Maybe it's 23, right? And so as I change these costs per square footage, the multiplication works out, and I'm going to get, you know, basically a flooring cost right there. I do need to add the floors though. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to select basically all the markups that I have on this sheet. I'm going to right click in here and I'm going to say, properties, which is going to give me basically right over to here. If you'll notice over here on the right hand side, my custom fields that I put them are right here. So here's my floor right here. I'll put this ground floor right there. So now you see the floor is listed right here. And as I scroll down some more, you see I have all of my other measurements not here because they're on different pages. So let me go to my second page here and do the same thing. Grab these guys and put second floor here. Sorry. And I'll do third floor here. Oops. Okay, so now we have all of this. Now the cool thing about the new feature in Revit, or in a Bluebeam Revu that's really cool, are legends. What legends allow us to do is to put our information back in. So if I go back into, let me go back into here. So let's look at legends. The legends allow us to put the markup data, condense it into a nice little table, and put it right onto the sheet. And so the biggest thing you would want to use this for probably are going to be things like takeoffs, so like we're doing right now with flooring area, or you can also use it for punch lists. So if you have markups in there that are specifically for certain punch list items, you can put those together into a legend and put them onto the sheet as well. So let's go back into Revu here, and what I can do is now that I have these selected, I can just right click on here and say legend. I'll say create new legend, and I'll put it right there. And you see where I'm getting all of the way that this legend has been put together is it's putting in all of the floor parameter, the space parameter, and the area. So it's right here. So I can go ahead and add, if I wanted to, go back and add in things like the flooring cost and the floor material. So I add those two in, and now I have basically my floor finish schedule along with all of the flooring costs estimations right here as well, right on the PDF. Okay. All right, so that takes care of basically getting stuff out of Revit into Bluebeam, marking it up with area takeoffs and things like this. Now, if I want to add more markups, obviously what I can do is come over here to my tool chest, and I have all of these markups here. Let me take this back to, say, advanced to give me the normal tools that I'm looking at here. So the tool sets that you have in Bluebeam for doing things like markups and things like that are really quite extensive and really nice. The fact is I can take, anything like this. Let me take this guy right here, a little punch list item note, and just say, this might be, zoom in here a little bit. It's my world famous spelling at work here. Say number 3 or something like this, and then this would refer back to some some document that you have that specifies that that's the wrong sofa and chair or whatever. So you can go ahead and do the same thing with these kinds of things here, and it's very easy to go ahead and put these things in. Right, these things are very malleable, and you can play with this as much as you want to. So the the tools you have at your fingertips for doing some really cool things from a markup standpoint are really nice. And again, they're all listed down here in the markups, so if you add additional parameters or fields to these things, you can calculate and do other operations down here in our markups list. All right, so let's look at some of the other new features before I run out of time, which is I've got about 10 minutes left here, so let me go through this pretty quickly. Batch markup summary. This allows me to export out my markups to a report in PDF, XML, or CSV. So here I've got all these markups that I've created with all of these items here. So it should be fairly easy to go from this to be able to pull these out. So let me just check something real quick right here. All right. So if I go down here to my summary right here, I can pull out my summaries to CSV, PDF, and so on and so forth. So maybe I'll go to a PDF summary here, and I'll say for maybe just 1 to 3 because I don't need pages 1 to 3. Let's see, filtered markups. Let's say here. Let's go ahead and do this. And the summary is going to get pulled out here. And what happens here is that all the markups that come through are in this summary right here. And I could have filtered these out for just the area measurements and things like that. And perhaps I should have done that, but I wanted to go through this pretty quickly. What's nice about this report is that you get a little screenshot of what that area is, so you can see it immediately. You get all the information about that measurement right here in terms of the cost per square footage, the flooring cost, the material, and so on, where it is, the second floor, and so on and so forth. So, and you can add other things to it, like a room code or whatever you need. But it's a very handy thing to have, and you can just—it's so easy to go ahead and just hit that summary button and just zap it out. Now I can zap this also out to XML if I wanted to, be web enabled or something like that, or CSV, which would take it into Excel. Okay, tags. The tags are the big thing that's in Bluebeam, because what this allows you to do is you use this in conjunction with sets. Now a set is essentially a group of PDFs that aren't in the same file. They are separate files, and we can go ahead and create a new set by going over to our Sets tab here. Let me go ahead and get out of this, and I won't save that. Let me go ahead and get out of this, and I won't save that either. And in Sets, what I have here, let me go to a new set. Actually, I have an open set right here. Let me go to a new set instead, and I'll let me save that. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new set here. Now, when I create the new set, I can automatically create tags that put in the sheet name and the sheet number by using something called AutoMark. And AutoMark is a great feature in Bluebeam, because what this allows us to do is say, let me go ahead and set all my files. I'm going to go into here. Now, as far as the categories for this, I have categories that I can use for grouping different things together. And I'll show you an example of this in a little bit. But I'm going to use my construction category right here. I'm going to go ahead back here and find my 7 files that I created here. And you can see where automatically these are going to be put into an architectural category. And the reason they are going to be put into this category is because the construction template that's used for displaying these things or for grouping these things into categories is going to say, okay, this thing starts with an A, or it has the A in it, and that's going to be directed towards the architectural thing. If it was E-101 or whatever, it would be electrical. If it was FP, it would be fire protection, and so on. I'm going to come over here to options, and now this is going to give me the options for how things are working here. Now, the first page here for sorting, this is fine. I'm not going to worry about this. Under categories, this is basically how it's the categories are found. So we're looking for a filter of A, essentially, and that's how it's finding in the file name that, and it's grouping them under architectural. For tags, now I have two tags here that are set to be auto-marked, and what these are, the sheet name and the sheet number. Now in this particular set, the sheet name and the sheet number are in exactly the same place in every single sheet because the same title block was used. So what that means is I can use the auto-mark feature to find exactly where to find the text for these two pieces of information. And then Bluebeam has optical character recognition abilities inside of it that will just read those things, and now it'll pull that information out and put it into the tags. I also have something down here called auto tag revision number per sheet number, and that's not set to auto mark. And what's going to happen here, I'll explain this in a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here and hit OK here. And now what's happening is it's asking me select the page region that contains the sheet name. And if this was a cover sheet, I might not have the sheet name in the same place. So it allows me to skip the page. I can skip the entire document if this was a multi-sheet PDF, or skip the tag altogether if I didn't want to do this. But I'm going to go ahead and hit select. And I'm going to use this rectangle right here. And I want to be careful that I don't get anything else in there. So the text is going to be inside that box. Okay? And that's going to say it found ground floor plan. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK there. Now it's going to ask me for the sheet number as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit select. I'll pan down here and I'll grab this entire box here. A1. Okay. So what happens here is that the tags are created here. So with each of these, if I didn't get if the OCR didn't read this quite right, I can select on any of these tags and go ahead and edit it up here in this list. But it says that the sheet name is listed here, the sheet number is listed here. These are tags that are actually added to the PDFs themselves. Now I have revision number right here. So what happens here is if I hit OK, and I go to my set here on the left-hand side, you'll see that my architectural set is here. If I had more, I would have different groupings for general purpose and electrical and mechanical and so on and so forth. And with each of these, I have the tag information. So you can see that I've selected this PDF right here. It says ground floor plan A1, so on and so forth. So I have the ability to basically tag these things. Now the cool thing about this is that, let me go ahead and get rid of this, is that the tags allow me to do a couple things. One of the first things I can do is that I can basically export this out as a report. So what I can do here is go to, go to Publish, and I can export out a drawing log. So when I go to export out this drawing log, I can say, okay, what columns do I want to show here? So I'm going to say show the ground floor plan, show the sheet name, the sheet number, the revision number, whether it's superseded or not. And this is what one of the great things about Bluebeam Revu is that if I have a superseded sheet, I can add it to the thing and actually automatically label the one that is older as being superseded. I don't need the label, and let's go ahead and let's put category up to the front. And I don't need file name. I don't need that either. Let me go ahead and hit next here. It's going to ask me for how do I want this to pop out. Now, I can pop this out as an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF or an Excel CSV. I'm going to do an Excel spreadsheet for right now. And this may give me an error. I'm not really sure, but it's happened before. Let's see what happens. Now, under the title here, what I can do is I can prepend the set name. These things in brackets are basically fields, or I can append the date to it as well. So I can say the set name, the drawing log, and then the date. That's fine. Let's go ahead and create the hyperlinks, and let's go ahead and open it right after the creation. And I can also actually say automatically export when saving the set. So when I save the set, when I come over here and save it, I can actually automatically export the entire thing every time. So if I make any changes, it'll automatically export, and I'll get this. So this is nice. This gives me the whole thing. Now, I did see where the category comes in twice. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but what I can do here is each of these is a hyperlink, takes me right to the sheet that I'm looking for. And the same thing would happen in a PDF. So that's tags in a nutshell. Let me talk about just a couple more little things about this because I know we're running out of time, which is pretty typical for me. I never have time with these things. Let's see. We have tags. We have, like I said, we have drawing logs. To give you an idea of how important this can be, let me close this set. Let me save it, and I'll save that. And let me close it out. I did have a set here that was really huge. $282 sheets full of everything from architectural demolition all the way down to AV. And if I export this out to this, I'll just go ahead and just shoot everything out there. Let me put the category at the top first, like this. Hit next, and let's put this here. Yeah, that's okay. Close this out. So you can see where this is my drawing list of all the sheets in this PDF. There are about 280 some odd different sheets here, and all the information that was held in the tags, the sheet number, the sheet name, and again some other information here is all here. So if I want to, I can just go to this utility plan, and I'm right there. So it takes me right to the document, and it makes it so easy to work with very large documents that would otherwise be a complete pain to sort of have to fumble through, whatever interface you're given. Okay, let me open up the combined file again, and I'll talk about the hyperlinking. So one of the great features with multi-sheet PDFs or sets is the ability to hyperlink things, and we can do this using the batch tool right here. If I go to File and pull batch down, I see hyperlink right here, and I'll say hyperlink new. Now what I can do here is I'm going to say, let's see, add the open file, which is going to be my multi-sheet advanced project here, and I'll hit next here. Now what I'm going to do here is it's going to say I can search for a page label, a page region, or a file name. So this is basically to generate the search terms in the first place. So I think what I'm going to do here is let's look for the file. Let's look for the page label. In other words, A1, A2, A3. I think that's what I want to look for. And I can filter this out if I want to. And this is what I wanted to do. Go in here, and I'm going to look for that right there. So this would look for this region, basically, and then use that as the purpose for a hyperlink. I think instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to use let me use the page label instead. And let me generate this. Oops. Yeah. Here's what I wanted to show you. The link options here, I can include an appearance for the link itself. The color I can set to be, say, orange with 0 line width and a solid fill. Let's do a solid fill. Actually, let's do an underline, see what that looks like. Hit OK here. And I can save this configuration if I wanted to. And you know what? I think the page label didn't actually come through. Let me go ahead back to this. Let me try it this way. Let me get it OK. And let's try. It should be saying run. Yep, that's fine. There we go. There we go. Okay, created 10 hyperlinks. And what it should have done, oh, maybe I didn't do it right. Let's try it again. This doesn't take that long, so just go ahead and bear with me a second here. Let me do a page label. Yeah, it didn't generate it because I don't think the page label is in the file. It's basically, a page label is a piece of information that may have not come through when I exported it out. Oops. It should have, okay, there we go. I thought there was one. What it should have done, let me tell you if this would have worked. And it looks like it, there we go. Yep. What this should have done is in each of these bubbles here is it should have put a colored rectangle around that text, which is a hyperlink. And what that means is that I could be able to select this and go right to that elevation and go to this elevation. Tell you what, let's go to one that I know works before I let you go. There we go. So it should look like this. And so this would take you right to sheet A5, which is this elevation. And hyperlinking, automatically hyperlinking these things is a great time saver because it allows you to basically take you right to the sheet where the detail or the call out that you're looking for is on. All right, so with that, I think what we're going to do is, I know that I've kept you for quite a while here, so a couple of other improvements. We have the ability to find mismatched sheets when we have batch slip sheeting, so it allows us to physically match the revised page to the one that is getting revised here. So the idea would be that we would marry these two, together, so that in the list we have, essentially a superseded sheet over top of the or underneath the newer sheet. We have some OCR improvements. It will now recognize vertical text, such as in a match line. We also can we can align our markups by centering aligning it to the middle, the center, and centering the entire thing in the document itself. We can export our bookmarks to a separate report. Again, this is kind of like exporting the sheet list to a separate report as well. And like I said, we talked about the hyperlinks. So thank you very much. I hope this has been informative. And again, if you have any questions about Bluebeam or Revit or BIM in general or anything that you have to do with Autodesk, please let me know. And we look forward to hearing from you. Okay? Thanks very much, everybody.